Did it tell you it's recorded? Hello, everybody. Welcome to Three Bone Theater's YouTube channel. I'm Tiffany Bryant-Jackson, the education manager. Here I have our artistic managing director and our director of our most current production, Oedipus El Rey, Rod Oden. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hello.
Now, this is a beautiful day, and this show concludes a beautiful journey. So, I want to talk about a couple of things. Before I get into the show, Robin, we've done a trilogy. Talk about it.
Yeah, so this is a big deal. This is the final installment of the Luis Alfaro trilogy. As a reminder to all of our wonderful watchers, we embarked on this journey. We probably started talking about it probably 4 years ago or so, and embarked on the journey of being the first company in the country to produce the full Luis Alfaro Greek trilogy. So Luis Alfaro, who is probably one of the most well respected and most talented current modern day American playwrights. Um, he has taken three Greek tragedies. The first was we did Medea, the second was Electra last summer, and now here we are at Oedipus El Rey, which is the story of Oedipus. And so we he has taken those Greek tragedy plays and rewritten them into these really beautiful, heart-wrenching, in-your-face, modern-day Chicano retellings of these stories, and they're beautiful. So this is the last one of our multi-year project, and the first time we've done anything like that as a country,
As a
bless us,
company, but
as a
also
company.
as a country.
Um,
I mean, that could be possible.
Yeah,
Golly. And we are just so thrilled to have Rod here directing Oedipus El Rey for us. And this has been a really lovely journey, and we're excited to go out on this note. We've had the wonderful pleasure of partnering with Enlace Charlotte on all three productions, so also kind of wrapping up that really beautiful partnership. And I'm sure we will stay connected with them for many, many years to come. But that's been a really beautiful relationship through this too. So we're excited.
awesome. Thank you. Rod, I want to talk about when you first got wind that we were producing the show and it came on your desk as an option. What are your initial thoughts?
Well, it actually begins back with your production of Electricidad, which Electra was something I performed in high school. And I love Greek theater. It's my background. And so I was like, of course I'm going to see this. And the whole idea of it surrounding the Latino Chicano culture is like, oh, this is awesome. Well, we saw it. And the first thing I said when I came out to Rob, like, oh my gosh, I'm so Mexican. I, I get this. It was so great. Well, then when I was approached to direct Oedipus, which is a very closely guarded love of mine in Greek theater, I was like, oh my gosh. And then I read it, and it was so theatrical. And in some ways, after reading the whole trilogy, very different than
Mhm.
the other two. It's a different journey that we take, and I love all of the use of metaphor and animism and traditional cultural context and language, which is combined to make these wonderful characters that are being told, of course, through the original Oedipus cycle. So it's a really great show, and I was very excited.
Rod, do you want to share a
Well,
little bit that you're also from the area,
Yes,
yeah, please.
I'm very proud to say that I am a fifth generation Californian. My family line goes back before it was owned by the country. And, I am born and raised Southern California, Long Beach, California. Love my home state. But it's funny, you go away from it and you forget a lot of little things. And these shows very specifically speak not only to the Latin culture, but to the West Coast, Southern California Latin culture, gang culture, dealing with how, Chicano, lowrider, vato culture is. And, they talk about things like on Saturday night, you're going to go see all the lowriders and go cruising in East LA. And I'm like, that's a thing. Like, you do that. It sounds very theatrical, but it's just how you celebrate your history and those who came before you. I fell in love very much with the characters in this story through my connection to that state. So,
I love that. And you both bring up something very important. This is a culture that doesn't get to get the full presence on stage all the time. Every culture should. I'm going to put that out there. But we often see in theater here, American theater, our
oh,
contemporary
yes.
theater, sometimes cultures are forgotten. So I want to talk about two things from each of you. One, Robert, I wanted to talk about the work that was done to make sure we did workshops in communities to make sure we had casting and the growth from the first audition to the growth of this audition where I think we went, was there like one or two guys the first time? And obviously
Yeah.
this cast is full of men. And so
Oh, man.
watching the growth of that happen. And then Rod, I want to hear from you what you saw when you went into the audition room with everyone coming in.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think, one of the things that we knew as a company going into this trilogy was that we had not taken the time and the resources to invest in building the relationships and the trust between our organization and the Latino community here in Charlotte. We had done maybe one other kind of immigrant focused story. So we knew that all takes time, right? It takes time and legwork and going out into community and talking with different organizations that are already doing the work and just getting connected because there is such a huge Latino, Mexican, culture here in Charlotte, community here in Charlotte. And there's amazing organizations that are doing that work all the time within that community. As part of that community, Latin American Coalition was really integral to us. Being able to connect in with folks who were not necessarily part of the theater community here in Charlotte, again, because of the history of racism in the American theater, and that there's just not a lot of opportunities for Latinos to be on stage playing Latino characters in Charlotte. And so talking with Latin American Coalition, being, them opening their doors to us, letting us do acting workshops there for each of the trilogy pieces was really, really important. We met people that are in each of the shows through those workshops specifically. And I don't know if we would have connected with them otherwise, right? And so that was an incredible gift to the theater from Latin American Coalition, and also just a really, really powerful experience for us. This was also the first time that we had sort of like a truly bilingual workshop process, audition process, being able to, you know, um, engage with actors that maybe I think all of the actors that we have worked with on these plays obviously speak English. These are English language plays, but being able to connect with other actors and other people in the community who are predominantly Spanish speakers, that was the first time that we were able to do that. And that was in huge thanks to a lot of our artists who are bilingual and were able to come in and be part of that space. And so that was a really interesting journey for us. And like you were saying, Tiffany, I think the first, we started with Mohara. There's not really an order to the trilogy, but we chose to start with Mohara because there is one male role and then a son, right? And in Electricidad, we have two men, and then in Oedipus, we have six men. And so we were more connected with more Latina actors here in Charlotte than we were Latino actors. And so it felt like, that was a good progression for us as an organization and building that community and that trust and awareness, right? Like most of it is also just like awareness, us connecting
Mhm.
to them and them connecting to us, and for the first time. And so, yeah, I mean, I think seeing particularly the Latino turnout at auditions, the male actors, that progression has been really, really fulfilling. And the amount of talent that is here in this city is just like absolutely remarkable. You know, we say this all the time in lots of rooms that we're in, that like Charlotte does not have a talent problem, it has an infrastructure problem. And that has really been shown through this process as well. But we've been able to connect with so many wonderful performers and designers, and also not just the people who were cast in the play. And so I'm sure Rod will talk a little bit about the audition process, but you know, we met so many actors that we, you know, didn't have the chance to work with on this production or these productions, but we're really excited to continue building those relationships. So
Thank
Yeah,
you.
piggybacking off of what Robin is saying, uh, one of the first things that really stood out coming into work with Three Bone on this project, I really value accessibility and intentionality. A lot of processes are not as informed on being intentional when trying to do casting, or what we end up finding is, oh, well, this is our pool.
yeah.
How can we augment the work to fit our pool?
Mm.
And what I really love is, and I appreciate the honesty that it was a stretch, I'm sure, for your organization to pick these pieces
Mhm.
because I can't speak, fully knowledgeably, but I would say in the world of American theater, obviously in our colonized white American theater, we have a lot of that. But right
Mhm.
behind it is African American theater. And then somewhere below that is Latin theater. And that's what I really was really impressed with is from start to finish, it was always a conscious effort of how do we create accessibility and access and connection with these artists. So when we held the workshop, they got to come in and get a feel for what that felt like. Um, and, some of them fully fluent. Some
Mhm.
of them, I mean, there were two people that were completely Spanish speaking.
Yeah.
And, we had Mariana Corrales right there, and she was helping, interpret, and, it was incredible. What was really more fascinating was the auditions. Uh, I'm going to piggyback off of what Robin said. There were several artists that we could not work with that we would love to.
Yeah.
And of course, the big question coming after this is what's next, right?
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
that's on y'all. But um, we found a really interesting approach with Oedipus. One of the successes that I really think about this play in auditioning is that most people have never read Greek theater. And so there's no preconceived notion. There's no, I have to play like. And in some
Mhm.
ways, they're like, I need some help understanding where this is at. And the beautiful part about Alfaro's work is that it so easily translates to modern day motivations and intentions. And that is really where we saw that in the audition room. We got very lucky. I was very nervous.
We have a slight.
We might have a little delay there. Well, hopefully Rod will be able to jump back on. Um,
I just want to note to anyone watching this, Rod and Robin R&R have both mentioned intentionality. And I will say our team does a really good job. We have an artistic committee with our board, and they do an excellent job of reading and thinking about, um, do we have the demographics? And if we don't right away, can we build community?
mhm.
It is not a direct no for us. It is, can we build this community? And can we build it in a timeline that works this season? Or
Mhm.
can we, do we need an extra season to build that timeline?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I will say I appreciate that being on staff, that I know we can read a show and we're not like, no, we can never do that. It is, what's the timeline of us to build a good, solid relationship
Yeah.
with the community we want to showcase? What does that look like? Because a good show is a good show.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Yeah, I mean, I think that it's interesting. I'm in a class right now where we're talking a lot about this, and it's like the timeline, oftentimes the timeline and the demands of theater and the theater
Mhm.
industry and putting on a show and that kind of stuff is really a lot faster than the timeline of relationship building and trust building,
Yeah.
which happens over years, right? And so, we're experiencing that as we're starting to build towards sovereignty, right? For our first Indigenous Cherokee Native piece in
Mhm.
August. So I think this has been a really, really good learning process for us as a company. And I also, I want to echo what you said and shout out the board of directors for saying like, yeah, we're going to commit to this for 3 years. That's a bold programming take when you only do 4 productions a year. And
Yeah.
I really appreciate their support and their oftentimes, their bravery and encouraging me that we can do it.
Yes, and I also want to bring up something Rod said, which I never thought about because I had to read the Greek plays. I also had a hyperfixation with mythology somewhere in middle school and high school. Who doesn't? I'm currently currently reading Sapphic retakes on a lot of the Greek gods right now.
Yes.
It's fun, but he brought up the point that not everyone has had to
Mhm.
read it, and I want to say that an audience, there are two takes you can take. You can come in here fresh, not having read that, and just take in an excellently done contemporary show.
Yep.
But if you've read the tragedies, it's also a fascinating look at how we can take what we deem as classic
Hmm.
and work it into contemporary
Yeah.
situations and it still be just as beautiful. I think sometimes people go, well, that's the classic. We don't want to mess with it.
Yeah.
You can update some things and make it relevant and culturally significant
Yeah.
in ways that are just beautiful. And this trilogy has done that through and through. You
Yeah, and
don't have to.
it's been interesting too, just to share on this, and hopefully Rod will be able to join us back in a little bit. But um, it's been interesting from a design perspective too, because
Hmm.
the first show, so Mojada was I felt very much we are telling a new story of Medea, right?
Hmm.
Like that is, it is a ancient story, but we are telling it from a new, this new perspective. Electricidad was sort of somewhere in the middle of like, we're bringing
Hmm.
in more of the elements of Greek theater. Hey, you're
Welcome
okay.
back.
We're just, it's what it is. Um,
Sorry about that.
that's okay.
Okay.
So we're having kind of more elements of Greek theater, and I think the director Glynis was interested in kind of finding that middle ground. And then with Oedipus, we're really embracing a lot of the Greek roots. We have much more of the presence of the Greek chorus. We
Hmm.
have lots of columns in our scenic design that are referencing Greek theater and also the underpasses of LA and the prison system and so it's been very, for me artistically, watching the shows progress has been an interesting development of like the influence of and the presence of the Greek storytelling as well. And we are going to provide a summary of Oedipus in the Know Before You Go, just for people who, like Rod was saying, haven't um, necessarily read the original and we may only know of Oedipus, just Oedipus complex and, all of that
Yeah.
kind of stuff in
Yes.
psychology. So.
I'm also going to plug real quick that Three Bone Theater does have a book club who is reading the classic. So you could read along with us and join us May 5th at Troubadour Booksellers.
And
So
then go see the
you
play.
can talk about it with me because I love to yap about a book and a story. And then you'll go see the play. And then you can message me later and we can yap some more about the tie between the classic and the contemporary
Yes.
take. So that's just a heads up for anyone. Rod, I wanted to walk through your design process and your thoughts about, Robin just talked about we're leaning into the Greek influence on this one. So I want to talk to you just a little bit about where your mind went when you first thought about, okay, this is what I'm envisioning here.
Well, so the really awesome thing about the show is that it's I'm sorry, it is framed by the California correctional system. Um, being from Southern California, I was aware of, I used to work right around the corner from Los Angeles Correctional. I was aware of Kern County, Kern Correctional Facility. We all, first thing we said is when we looked at it, we're like, this is very Greek. There's columns that are being used in architecture all over the place. And so using that as a device and then trying to connect the world. Obviously, the world has to have a sound. That is a very specific sound. And I'm very thankful that Josh is on board with us doing that design. Very, very excited for them to see the continued sound design of this cycle. One of the things that I really was excited about from a directing standpoint on design was the intentionality of using Greek device through the presentation. There is very intentionally written what are called dawning moments, right? So for those of us that do Greek trilogy, we don masks. And so there is masking technique that we are using and taking it on and taking it off. And it's been really amazing to watch. The other part, which I was, when I first read it and as we've been developing it, is really how to embrace Mexican animism, which is a very present storytelling device in the Mexican culture. I remember as a child going down to downtown LA and seeing them tell stories with puppets, or they would wear costuming and be lions, and they would become, owls and things like that. And so as we watch them tell these stories as animals, this is also a device that we put in both through costuming as well as presentation format. It's been a real challenge. I don't think in contemporary theater we lean on the act of mental imagination and creation as much. Obviously, Uta Hagen technique talks about animism, which is really important. But, the idea that you can tell the story through that is sort of oral tradition based, which I think is really what rooted the design process in the show. So
That makes me so excited to see the final product. I have mentioned on here before, I am in love with theater because of the journey it takes from reading the script to the cast read through to what the final product is. I get very emotional about it because it's a beautiful process. And I'm so excited, Rod, with everything you just said, because I'm like, ooh, I get to see that play out in person. And, I have sneak peek because I obviously have to read the show before it even becomes in season. But it's really nice to then talk to the director and see where your brain is going and how you're working in the classic work and culture to make this show what it's going to be. Now, I'm going to ask, because I ask everyone this, when someone leaves the theater, Rod, what is one thing you want them to take away from this show?
that the stories we tell are cyclical and timeless, and the morals of those stories are the most important thing that we hold dear. The cultural identity that they're going to walk away with is pretty cemented, and I thank Alfaro for that. I mean, I like I said, I was moved to death when I saw Electricidad. When they mentioned El Pollo Loco, I almost cried. I was like, God, I haven't had that in 15 years. Oh my gosh, I can taste and smell it. The same thing happens in this show, and it's really amazing.
Wonderful, Robin. After this particular show and the trilogy, what do you want audiences to take away?
Yeah, so I'm gonna answer, I think, in terms of the trilogy, in that I hope that, we as a company continue to uplift these stories and produce these stories and make space for these stories. And that I hope that translates to our entire region. These stories are really important. They are part of American drama, and tell the story of our country and our people in a really important way. And I think, I feel like, you'll have to come see the play to see the ending. But I do feel like Alfaro ends it on the note of like reclaiming our stories for this community. And I think that that is deeply powerful. And I hope that the artists, all of the artists that we've worked with over the three shows, feel that reclamation process. And I'm ready for more. Let's do more of it.
Awesome. Now, this is the time where I warn everyone to get your tickets now, because what happens is people tend to wait and then go, oh no, I couldn't get in. And I go, well, when I told you that one time to go ahead and get your tickets and you didn't listen to me, this is your warning. So the show opens the first weekend of May and we run all 3 weekends um, after. So you have no excuses. Get your tickets now. And I will say this is a little different from our past shows. This is an 18 plus show. We do have some content warning. Robin, I want you to list those out. Do we have them on the list?
Yeah, so just to give audiences a heads up, there is an intense simulated sex scene. There is graphic violence that is done very stylistically and theatrically beautifully by Rod and Allison Collins, our wonderful fight choreographer, and a huge shout out to Sarah Provençal and our actors for the intimacy scene. They are doing such beautiful work. And but it is intense. It's an intense story. It is set in the carceral system in it for a large part. So, just we are recommending for 18 and up. You all obviously know your children or your young people in your lives who may, be ready or more mature and able to handle a show like that. But, just we want to set expectations for what folks are walking into. It is a beautiful story. Rod has done a beautiful job telling this piece, and our actors are just incredible storytellers. And it's a lot. It's spicy. It's sexy Oedipus. So
It's spicy.
yeah. So just, know what you're
Spicy in a
coming
good way,
into.
but you've been warned that there is
Yeah.
spice. And maybe if it is a lot on you, you plan your day accordingly. You plan something afterwards that's a good relief of that. I'm a fluffy romance reader, and so after I go leave, I'm gonna go back to reading a very light story on Aphrodite and
Yeah.
her love life. So please make sure you
And
do some
we
self care
will,
there.
yeah, and we'll have some cocktail tables in the lobby
Mhm.
for this show. Just kind of as a space to be able to debrief
Yeah,
and chat before show, after show. Just and of course we have our discussion guide that Tiffany puts together to help you process and look at other resources.
we do. So again, get your tickets now. Oedipus El Rey opens in like a week. Um,
A week from today, May 1st.
May 1st, you've been warned. 3 week run, no excuses. Go ahead. Thank you, Rod and Robin, for hanging out with me this morning
Thank you.
and taking on the show. I hope everyone gets a chance to see it.
Bye.